In the quiet of our suburban home, the words hit me like a bolt from the blue. Isn't the baby adorable? Looks just like you. My heart skipped a beat as I stood frozen, a glass of water halfway to my lips. The voices came from the living room where my husband, Daniel, was on a video call. Curiosity mingled with a creeping unease. I tiptoed closer, peering around the corner. Daniel, usually so mundane in his conversations, had a strange look on his face. He quickly minimized the video call as I entered the room. "Hey, Claire. You're home early," he said, a little too casually. "Yeah, the traffic was light. Who were you talking to?" "Just some colleagues," he replied, avoiding eye contact. The moment lingered awkwardly before I shrugged it off and headed to the kitchen. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My sister Emily's face flashed in my mind, but I quickly dismissed the thought. She'd been out of touch lately, busy with her own life, or so she said. Later that evening, as I lay in bed, the shadows of doubt crept in. Daniel and I had been drifting apart, our conversations dwindling to mundane pleasantries. Was it just the wariness of our 5-year marriage or something more? The next day at work, I couldn't focus. My role as a marketing executive, which I usually loved, felt dull and unimportant. My mind kept drifting back to that overheard conversation. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces didn't fit. Emily, with her vibrant personality and stunning looks, had always been the center of attention. I, on the other hand, had found solace in my career, away from the shadows of comparison. I decided to call Emily. The phone rang, but no answer. I sent a text, but it remained unanswered. This wasn't like her. Emily was many things, but silent wasn't one of them. That night, I confronted Daniel. "Is there something going on between you and Emily?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "What? No, of course not," he replied a little too quickly. His denial did little to quell the storm brewing inside me. The following week, I received an invitation from Emily to meet for coffee. She sounded upbeat, but there was a nervous undertone in her voice that I couldn't place. My mind raced with possibilities as I prepared for what was to come. At the cafe, Emily's smile didn't reach her eyes. She fidgeted with her coffee cup before blurting out, "Claire, I'm pregnant." The news hit me like a wave. Pregnant? My sister, who always said she wasn't ready for such commitments? But the shock was replaced by a nauseating realization. The words I had overheard came rushing back. "Looks just like you." I struggled to maintain my composure. That's great news, Em. Who's the father?" Emily hesitated, her eyes darting away. "It's complicated." My heart sank. The unspoken truth hung heavily between us. I had to know. "Is it Daniel?" Emily's silence was all the confirmation I needed. A sick feeling settled in my stomach as the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. The late nights, the unexplained absences, the whispers in the corner. It all made sense now. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "How could you?" My voice was a mix of anger and disbelief. "Claire, I'm sorry, I never meant for this to happen." Emily stammered. I didn't wait for her to finish. I walked out of the cafe, my mind racing. This betrayal was a wound too deep, a cut too sharp. I needed to act, to make them feel the weight of their deceit. As I drove home, a plan began to form. Daniel and Emily, they would pay for what they'd done. Revenge, cold and calculated, was the only path forward. I wouldn't let them get away with shattering my world. They would learn the hard way that betrayal comes with a price. The days following the cafe were a blur of anger and disbelief. I moved through them like a ghost, my mind obsessively replaying Emily's confession and Daniel's betrayal. Work became my only refuge, a place where I could bury my emotions in deadlines and presentations. At home, I watched Daniel with a new lens, seeing him not as my husband, but as a stranger. His every gesture, every word, felt like a mockery of our marriage. I needed time to plan my next move, so I kept my knowledge of his affair hidden, wearing a mask of normalcy. One evening, as we sat at dinner, a meal I had prepared with feigned normality, I decided to probe further. "So, how's work been? Any interesting projects?" I asked, my voice steady. "It's been the usual. Nothing much. Just busy with meetings and deadlines," Daniel replied, his eyes on his plate. "I see. And how's Emily? We haven't seen her in a while," I ventured, watching his reaction closely. He paused, a flicker of something crossing his face. "Emily? I don't know. We don't really talk much." I nodded, a cold rage building inside me. The lies were as effortless to him as breathing. As the days passed, I began to gather evidence. I quietly accessed Daniel's phone, uncovering a trail of messages and calls to Emily that confirmed my worst fears. Their deceit was not just a fleeting mistake, but a calculated betrayal. One night, lying in bed next to Daniel, the injustice of it all hit me. Here I was, a successful professional, a loyal wife, reduced to playing detective in my own marriage. Daniel's steady breathing next to me felt like an insult. "I can't believe you," I whispered into the darkness, my words a vow of retribution. The following week was a strategic play of gathering evidence and planning my revenge. I contacted a lawyer, discreetly setting the wheels in motion for a divorce that would leave Daniel with nothing. I also started documenting every financial transaction, preparing for the inevitable legal battle. But it wasn't just about the legalities. I wanted them to feel the burn of their actions, to suffer as I had. I began to spread hints of Emily's affair within our social circle, carefully crafting a narrative that would tarnish her reputation. I watched as the rumors took hold, seeing her once-admired image start to crumble. Meanwhile, I played the part of the dutiful wife to Daniel, all while setting the stage for his downfall. My plan was meticulous, a slow poison that would leave him reeling. The final piece came when I discovered Emily was planning a baby shower, the perfect opportunity to expose them, to reveal their sordid affair to everyone they knew. As I prepared for the day, a cold determination settled over me. This was the moment of reckoning. They would pay for their betrayal, and I would be the architect of their downfall. The baby shower was set in a quaint local hall, decorated with pastel balloons and a banner that read, "Welcome, little one." I arrived early, my heart a battlefield of anger and anticipation. As guests trickled in, I mingled, my smile a practiced mask hiding my true intentions. Emily was radiant, unaware of the storm brewing. She moved through the crowd, the picture of blissful ignorance. My resentment towards her deepened with each congratulatory hug she received. Then, as the room filled with chatter and laughter, I found the moment I had been waiting for. I clinked my glass, signaling for attention. The room quieted down, all eyes on me. "I'd like to say a few words," I began, my voice steady. "Emily, you look absolutely beautiful today. Motherhood suits you." Emily beamed. "Thank you, Claire. That means a lot coming from you." I paused for a moment, letting the tension build. "I also think it's important for us to acknowledge the father of the child on this special day." I turned towards her, my gaze unwavering. After all, a baby is a celebration of both parents, right? The room fell into an uneasy silence. Emily's smile faltered, her eyes searching mine for an explanation. "It's just so wonderful that Emily has found happiness," I continued, my voice laced with venom, "even if that happiness is built on betrayal and deceit." Whispers erupted around the room. Emily's face drained of color, her eyes widening in shock. "What are you saying, Claire?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm saying that the father of your child is none other than my husband, Daniel," I declared, the words slicing through the room like a knife. Gasps and murmurs filled the air. Emily looked around frantically, as if seeking an escape. This isn't true. Claire, why would you say something like that?" she managed to say, her voice trembling. "Oh, but it is true, dear sister," I said coldly. "I have all the evidence. Text messages, emails, late-night calls. You two didn't do a very good job of covering your tracks." Emily's facade crumbled, her eyes brimming with tears. "Claire, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I laughed bitterly. "Destroying a marriage is not a mistake, Emily. It's a choice you both made." The room was thick with tension, the festive atmosphere now a distant memory. I looked around at the stunned faces, my message delivered loud and clear. "I hope you both find happiness in the ruins you've created," I said, turning to leave the shattered celebration behind. As I walked out, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The truth was out, and with it, the first step of my revenge was complete. Emily and Daniel's betrayal was now exposed for all to see, their perfect images shattered by their own selfish actions. The aftermath of the baby shower was like a wildfire, the scandal spreading through our social circles with ferocious speed. Emily's reputation, once pristine, was now tarnished with whispers of infidelity and deceit. As for Daniel, he returned home to find his belongings neatly packed in the living room, a clear message that his presence was no longer welcome in my life. "Claire, we need to talk about this." Daniel pleaded, his voice a mix of desperation and disbelief. "There's nothing to talk about," I said, my voice icy. "Your things are packed. I suggest you find somewhere else to stay." "Please, let me explain," he implored, stepping towards me. I held up my hand, stopping him in his tracks. "Save it, Daniel. I know everything. I've seen the messages, the emails. You betrayed me, with my own sister no less. There's no coming back from that." "But I love you, Claire. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake," he stammered. "Love?" I scoffed. "Your actions speak louder than your words, Daniel. You made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences." He looked at me, his eyes searching for a sign of forgiveness, but there was none to be found. "Where will I go?" he asked, his voice breaking. "That's not my concern. You should have thought about that before you destroyed our marriage," I replied, unmoved. As he left, I felt a sense of satisfaction. The first part of my plan was complete. Daniel was out of my life, but my revenge was far from over. The next phase was to ensure that Emily faced the full extent of her actions. I contacted a few friends in the media, providing them with enough information to fuel the scandal. The story of the affair between a respected marketing executive's husband and her sister made for sensational news. Emily's name was now synonymous with betrayal. I watched as Emily's social media accounts were flooded with hateful comments. Her once cheerful posts were now met with scorn and disdain. She called me several times, but I never answered. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. The final blow came when I learned that Emily had been let go from her job. The scandal had reached her workplace, and they wanted nothing to do with the drama. She was now not only a pariah in our social circles, but also struggling financially. As I sat in my quiet, empty house, I reflected on the chaos I had created. My heart was still heavy with the pain of betrayal, but there was also a sense of empowerment. I had taken control of the situation, and in doing so, I had made them pay for their deceit. In the weeks that followed, the fallout from my revelation continued to unfold. Daniel's attempts to contact me became more desperate, but I ignored each call and message. He was no longer a part of my life, a chapter painfully closed. One afternoon, as I sat in my office, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Reluctantly, I answered, only to hear Emily's voice on the other end. "Claire, please, we need to talk." I hesitated for a moment before responding coldly. "What is there left to say, Emily?" "I know I've made a horrible mistake. I've lost everything, Claire. My job, my friends. I'm begging you, please forgive me," she pleaded, her voice cracking with emotion. "Forgive you?" I replied, my tone sharp. "You betrayed me in the worst possible way. You and Daniel. There's no forgiveness for what you've done." "But I'm your sister," she sobbed. "Family is supposed to stick together." "Family doesn't do what you did," I retorted. "You made your choice, Emily. Now you have to live with the consequences, just like I do." I ended the call, cutting off her pleas. The satisfaction of seeing them suffer for their actions was cold comfort compared to the void their betrayal had left in my heart. A few days later, I received a letter from Daniel's lawyer. He was filing for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. I laughed bitterly at the irony. He had the audacity to file for divorce after everything he had done. I called my lawyer, instructing him to proceed with the divorce and ensure that Daniel wouldn't get a cent more than legally required. The divorce proceedings were swift. Daniel tried to argue for a more favorable settlement, but the evidence of his infidelity weakened his position. The court ruled in my favor, leaving him with little. In the end, Emily and Daniel were both left to face the harsh reality of their actions. Emily had become a social outcast, struggling to rebuild her life, while Daniel faced financial ruin and the loss of the life we had built together. As I signed the final divorce papers, I felt a sense of closure. I had lost a husband and a sister, but I had regained my dignity and self-respect. They had tried to break me, but I had emerged stronger. I walked out of the lawyer's office into the bright light of a new beginning. The pain of the past was still there, but it was now a part of who I was, a reminder of my strength and resilience. In the months following the divorce, I found myself in a period of introspection. The home that once echoed with laughter and shared dreams now stood silent, a constant reminder of the betrayal. Yet, amidst the solitude, I discovered a newfound strength. I immersed myself in my work, channeling my energies into creative projects and corporate strategies. My colleagues noticed the change, often commenting on my unwavering focus and innovative ideas. My professional success, however, couldn't fill the void left by the absence of a family I once cherished. One evening, as I scrolled through my social media, I stumbled upon a post from an old friend featuring Emily. The image was a stark contrast to the glamorous, confident sister I once knew. The smile was there, but the sparkle in her eyes had dimmed. Beside her stood a small boy, his features a painful reminder of the past. Despite the bitterness, a part of me ached at the sight of my nephew, an innocent caught in the crossfire of our family drama. The next update was about Daniel. A mutual acquaintance had shared a post about a local charity event, and there he was, unmistakably thinner, his face wearing the signs of stress and hardship. I heard through the grapevine that he had taken a job at a small firm, a far cry from the prestigious position he held during our marriage. The man in the photo bore little resemblance to the confident, charismatic person I had fallen in love with. The realization hit me then. My revenge, though justified, had left a trail of destruction. In seeking justice for their betrayal, I had altered the course of not just my life, but theirs as well. Emily and Daniel, once integral parts of my life, were now mere shadows, lost and broken by the consequences of their actions. That night, as I lay in bed, a sense of melancholy washed over me. I had won the battle, but at what cost? The satisfaction of retribution was fleeting, overshadowed by the realization that the ties that once bound us were irreparably severed. I wondered if revenge was truly worth the price we all had paid. The weeks turned into months, and slowly the sharp edges of betrayal began to soften. I learned to find joy in the small things: a successful campaign at work, a weekend retreat with friends, the quiet moments of solitude that allowed me to reconnect with myself. In the end, the journey through betrayal and revenge taught me a valuable lesson about the complexities of human relationships and the resilience of the human spirit. I emerged from the ordeal not as a victim, but as a survivor, forged by the fires of adversity into a stronger, more